students, we'll continue up with the next characteristics of the living organism, and that is metabolism. Now, first of all, we should know that what do we mean by the term metabolism. So basically, it is a term that is used to describe all chemical reaction involved in maintaining the living state of cells and the organisms. Now students, all living organisms, they are made up of chemicals, and these chemicals, whether it is small or big, it's belonging to various classes, sizes and functions. They are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules, right? So they're being made, constantly being made, and after that they are being changed up in some other biomolecules. Now students, these conversions are chemical reactions or metabolic reactions. There are thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms, whether they are unicellular, whether they are multicellular. Now students, all plants, animals, fungi and microbes, they also exhibit metabolism. And the sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in a body, it is said to be metabolism. Now students, there are two types of metabolism. The first one is catabolism and another one we have is the anabolism. Now you can see here there is a chemical equation or the reaction that is written. The first one is photosynthesis, which is an anabolism type of metabolism. So what do we mean by the anabolism? It builds complex molecules from the simpler one. Fine. So you can see here the complex is C6H12O6 and it has been formed from the simpler one, which is CO2H2O. Fine. And talking about the catabolism process that you can see here, in case of cellular respiration, catabolism basically it involves breaking the large molecules into the smaller ones. Fine. So the complexes here is C6H12O6 and this complex, or we can say this large molecule, breaks up into the smaller one, like we have carbon dioxide, water and energy. This was all about metabolism, students, which is one of the most important characteristics of living organisms. Moving on to the next one, which is consciousness, or we can say the awareness. Now students, the most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organism is this ability to sense their surrounding or environment and respond to these environmental stimuli, and these stimuli, they could be physical, chemical and biological. Fine. Now what is the stimuli here? Stimuli, students, is anything that generates a reaction. For example, you can see here in this picture. Fine. The heat you can see is basically it acts like a stimuli. Fine. So what happens here in this situation? This is a stimuli. So what is stimuli then? Anything that evoke a reaction. So you can see that this is a hand of an individual and the reaction is being evoked. Fine. Due to the stimuli. And in this example, the stimuli is heat. So this is all about the consciousness. Now students, we sense our environment through our sense organs. Now you all know we are having 5 sense organs and we sense our environment through these sense organs. Fine. What happened, just look at this example once again. When this person is touching this hot plate, so there are a lot of receptors that are present on the hand, and hand is a sense organ. Fine. Now what happens, the skin is a sense organ. So basically in this situation, when he touches the hot plate, so the receptors that are present on his or her hand, fine, they basically receive that and send the signal to the brain. I think have studied this thing in your class 10 chapter control and coordination. A very simple process. Now students, plants respond to external factor Now, what are those external factors? Like we have light, water, temperature, pollutant, etc. Now here, photoperiods affects reproduction in seasonal breeders in both plant as well as animals. Now you might be wondering, what is photoperiod? So basically students, they are related to the duration of time. The normal duration of natural daylight experienced by an organism is said to be photoperiod, which can affect the reproduction in seasonal breeder, both plants and animals. One most important thing here, students, that all organisms, therefore, they are aware of their surrounding. Fine, with the help of these stimuli, they are aware of their surrounding, and human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, and that is why has self consciousness. Fine, I hope this thing is clear to each one of you. Now students, moving on to the next topic, that is the diversity of living world. So now we know that our living world is full of diversity or biodiversity, which is a term used to refer to the number of varieties of plants and animals in region on earth. So students, we are having a lot of animals, a lot of plants. Number of plants and animals are found on the region, fine. Now in the region of our earth, and the species, the number of species known, they are like 1.7 to 1.8 million. Fine. Now students, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local name, right? And these local name would vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer an organism we are talking about. So, in order to remove this difficulty or confusion, there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. And students, this process is called as nomenclature. Fine. Now for plants, scientific names are based on agreed principle and criteria which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, that is ICBN. Fine. So this ICBN basically it is what for the plants, the scientific names are based on some agreed principle and criteria which are provided by this nomenclature, that is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. And similarly for the animal also, it is International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. Fine. Now students, the scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name, because we find it we are having a lot of confusions and doubts. So we cannot memorize number of names and creates a lot of difficulty. That is why there is only one scientific name which is common everywhere. Now they also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organisms. Fine. For example, like mango, Mangifera indica is the scientific name. Fine. So if a classification would not be there, if nomenclature would not be there, so if scientists, they keep on searching something new and they keep on naming the same name, or they are basically keep on giving the same name to the newfound species. Fine. So in order to remove this difficulty, this nomenclature has been formed. Now students, moving on to the next thing that we have is the binomial nomenclature, right? Now, binomial nomenclature was first introduced by Carolus Linnaeus. Now, the scientific naming of an organism, it basically used two words, and that is why the nomenclature here is said to be binomial nomenclature. And each name has two components. Now, what are those two components that in binomial nomenclature we talk about? The first one we have is the generic name, and another one we have is the specific epithet, or we can say the species. For example, we say Homo sapien. Fine, we say Mangifera indica. Fine. So here, what exactly happens? That Mangifera represents the genus. whereas indica refers to a particular species. Fine, so this is what all about. Now students will be studying the most important thing here, that is the rules for the nomenclature. So why this nomenclature has been formed? In order to reduce the complexities. Fine, because our world is full of basically have a lot of animals and plants, so we are surrounded by number of organisms. Fine, so in order to simplify this diversity, nomenclature has been found. Now students, what are the rules for nomenclature? Nomenclature is basically naming. Fine, so what are the rules for naming? The first one we have is that while giving the biological name, basically these biological name, they are generally Latin and they are written in italics. Fine, they are written in italics. And the first word in a biological name, like biological name can be anything student, like for example I'll be giving you Mangifera indica. Fine, so here this is a biological name and here the first word represents the genus, that is Mangifera, while the second component denotes the specific epithet or species, that is indica. Now students, both the words in the biological name, that is genus and species, when they are handwritten, they are separately underlined. Fine, or they can be, if we are writing them, if they are handwritten, they can be separately underlined, but if they are printed in italics, so it is also well and good. And the last one we have is that the first word denoting the genus, like Mangifera, so it always starts with a capital letter. Fine, but talking about the specific epithet or the species, it always starts with a small letter. Fine, that is, it means in Mangifera M will be capital and in indica I will be a small letter. Fine, I hope this thing is clear to each one of you. So we have studied till diversity in living organisms. I hope the topic is clear to each one of you. Thank you.